Alright, y'all, what is going on? This is your man L Jamal coming through with yet another special edition of Never Out of Bounds. Of course, this is the place where you can say what you want as long as you got the facts. And today's story covers theft, deception, and dare I even say it, class warfare. Let's just go ahead and get into it. In Western society, or maybe I should just keep it to America for right now, we are taught that those who are successful, in terms financially and maybe success, in a certain sport or aspect, just in general. These people, these successful people, are taught to us to be these people who deserve reverence and, deserve some type of high regard. And we, as the regular people of the society, we will fall for this. We tend to do this. Doesn't matter how flawed this individual is. If they have money and say something we like, we will go along with it. It's just the facts of the matter. It's unfortunate, but it's true. In this example here with Brett Favre, it's no different. Because even as we speak, there's people who are, who have been indicted and implicated with this plan and this situation that, involves him too. We're already seeing these people go down, facing charges. We'll get into those just in a second. But there's this call amongst, certain people in the media and just in general to say, oh, well, Brett, he's not a bad guy. Oh, this isn't stealing. This is okay. This is nothing. That's what people will tell you. They'll try to put the Boston Celtics coach in front of your face and try to tell you what's morally right and morally wrong. They'll try to make this a race issue. They'll try to make this a red versus blue issue. But the fact of the matter is that the state of Mississippi's Department of Human Services funneled tens of millions of dollars, up to $75 million, funneled it into these bullshit projects that had nothing to do with the welfare of the citizens. They defrauded the federal government. Now this isn't and just some liberal again I understand the environment nowadays where we're pointing out certain celebrities or certain people and this is all no. First of all, this has been reported by their own state auditor. Since 2019 is when these fraud is first arising. Shad White reported that like I mentioned, the human resources of the state of Mississippi in cahoots, let's just say it like it is, because this is what it is, in cahoots with a nonprofit, a bullshit nonprofit, mind you, called the Mississippi Community Education Center. That was headed by Nancy New, who was also AKA Nancy Santa, according to Brett Favre, who, again, this is what they did. Like I said, they funneled welfare ends, again, federal welfare, monies, to develop these volleyball facilities for Brett Favre at his old school. Is that what you're supposed to be doing with welfare? Particularly in the state that's the poorest in the nation? 19% poverty rate, the highest in the nation? One of the lowest wages out there? But then we're supposed to, when we complain about these things, or we mention these things, then we're taught that, in another, conversation, we're taught that welfare is bad. Welfare is this, But it's important enough to be scammed from. It's important enough to be used to funnel people's private interests. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand the pitfalls of the welfare system and how it could be used and abused. Don't get me wrong. But isn't this the same type of thing? Isn't this the equivalent of somebody just deciding to live up on it their whole entire life? If we have a problem with people, being born and raised on it and living off welfare, then we should have a problem with people stealing from our federal government to pretty much do the same type of things, to not have to pay out of pocket for expenses. I'm just saying. Because, let's be real here. All these guys, Brett Favre included, have enough money, let's be real here, to fund a stadium at a small college like Southern Mississippi. It altogether costs $5 million. I'm pretty sure Brett Favre's net worth is far over that. To the extent where you don't need to take away from the Temporary Assistance of Needy Families Fund. And the state of Mississippi shouldn't be allowing you to do so. But yet and still, we have this timeline that occurs from 2016 and culminates within the erection of the so-called volleyball facilities in about 2020. And Brett Favre his hands are all in on it. And these are text messages. This has been released. This is out there. This is not CNN. This is not, mainstream media. No, this is exactly what happened. He's constantly begging these people, do you guys have the funding? Do you guys have the funding together? When is the stadium going to be built? Freaking Deion Sanders and his son came to visit. Then he wanted to ask for a football facility. He got a beach volleyball facility all for his daughter. Yet and still, we'll lock up people for, being dishonest about their addresses to put their kids in a better school. But here we are stealing from welfare to give the more privileged a volleyball stadium. But that's the America that we live in. So you have to forgive me when I don't agree with all the sentiments being thrown out there lately, because again, I'm watching what's really happening. Now, we could sit there and try to make excuses, but again, the state government of Mississippi knew exactly what was going on, because again, they've hired all these people to conduct these situations. For example, John Davis, the former director of the Department of Health Services, or excuse me, Human Services, who's now facing 90 years in prison for his involvement in all this. He was, hired by the governor, Paul Bryant, who was in turn texting Favre and letting Favre know that he's in on it as well. The state auditor, I mentioned before, Shad White, proved multiple times that excess of tens of millions of dollars were paid through the Temporary Assistance of Needy Families Fund from 2017 to 2018 for fake event promos that Brett Favre was supposed to be doing. He never did them, but he got paid $1.1 million from state welfare funds for what? But that's fine. But that's completely okay in this country, right? Wow. But again, we're being taught that, or we're being manipulated from all these different sides to think that these guys are supposed to matter to us too. I'm just saying, I'm just throwing it out there. We all pull our bullshit. We all create crime. We all pull off capers. Let's call it how it is. Brett Favre should probably be facing charges too. There is no real excuse for him other than the fact that he's lucky that nobody that within these text messages, whether it be Nancy New, whether it be John Davis, whether it even be the governor or the former governor, even mentioned where these funds were coming from. That's what I think is his biggest get out of jail free card, honestly. But the fact of the matter is, he accepted welfare funds. My question is, nobody's in his ear telling him what could be going on. I find it highly doubtful that he didn't know where these ends could have been coming from. And again, the Mississippi Community Education Center, it claims it's a nonprofit, but it has a history of pulling off, let's say defrauding state welfare. They've done this before. They've used these same welfare funds from the same TANF to fund or to pay private school teachers. Big no. And the issue with this stadium is, another big issue with the stadium that was completed using these welfare funds is that you're not supposed to use welfare funds to create brick and mortar projects. You're supposed to do that. You're supposed to take the ends to give to the less fortunate. But again, in a crooked state like Mississippi, again, we could. Again, y'all want to make this red and blue since this is election time. Let's be real here. This is a state ran by Republicans. Is this surprising? Now, can you find the exact same thing happening in liberal cities and liberal states? Yes. This is why I keep trying to tell y'all it's all been a lie. Red versus blue. Y'all keep thinking there's a blue guy, a good guy, or a bad guy between the two. And I'm telling you right here, there's moral ambiguous behavior on all sides. Take it how you want it. This auditor, Shad White, has confirmed since 2018 that excess amounts of millions of dollars have been used to funnel illegal projects. Brett Favre's name is all over it. There is no excuse. There is no, there really is no he didn't know. Because I think he did. I'm pretty sure. Again, he might end up being saved. He might end up being saved. But we know that this whole process has been illegal because of who's been indicted. Nancy New, who we called Nancy Santa for hooking him up for $500,000 one Christmas with those same funds. She's going to jail along with her son for racketeering, forgery, bribery. That's all that was involved in this process. Again, Brett might be able to wash his hands clean because he might not have to go down. But in my opinion, he's just as guilty as these folks. And it's gonna affect how I view the man. Simply point blank. There's no excuses. The more I think about it, the more we look at the facts, the more we look at the egregiousness of all this. A fucking volleyball stadium for your kid, while these kids, there's just millions of kids in your state going without food. They can't even afford to get into a decent school. And we locking up people because they lied about addresses. He should be locked up too for his involvement in this. If you really want to call yourself a real American, if you really think that all lives matter. Because all those lives that got screwed out of millions of dollars of welfare, those lives matter too. Or did they not? But again, we talking about Brett Favre here. We talking about the guy who, advertised speech, the weak ass speech that don't work. We already know that's the trash of all deodorants. He rocks he rocks the Wranglers, the bullshit of all jeans. Come on now. Somebody rock them bullshits. It's Brett Favre, corny. And throughout the process, he proved himself to be very ill-finessed and ill-equipped for the real business of what was going on here. And that's gonna be another thing that saves him. So again, he proved himself to be a dumb jock, just involved himself in something he didn't really know, all because he thought he was gonna flex his influence. Yeah, okay. And again, this is what the other side does, and I'm not even just saying white people. I'm saying anybody in this predicament, because you'll have you have black people who try to do the same thing too. That thought they've made it because they rich and they famous and they say they little things and they attend their little events and act as though that they switch sides or whatever. We don't play that. There's no defending this man. If it's wrong for a woman, single black mom, to lie and end up in prison for lying about her address to put her kids in the best school, then this right here, defrauding a welfare system for millions of dollars, that should be putting Brett Favre in jail too. I don't give a fuck about what your daughter needed for her to play volleyball. Not in your state where nobody can eat, barely anybody can eat. Sorry. You got to think about it more than that. You got to think outside yourself for a minute, Brett. And you failed to do that. That's not what a hero is about. So all that, I don't care about what he did with the Packers. In my opinion, he was a above average quarterback anyways with all the interceptions he thrown. So now, He's just as much as a fraud as Nancy knew. He's just as much as a fraud as John Davis, and it's a shame he can't go to prison with him. I'm just gonna keep it real with you. It's a shame he can't go to prison with him. I don't support stealing. That's a sin. Just like I don't support whatever a lot of these things the left wing got going on either. But I don't fuck with stealing. I don't fuck with stealing from the poor. So to hell with Brett Favre. I don't care about what he did in '96. I don't care about all the greatness he achieved on the field, because after all that, he decided to be a sleazeball and stole from the people who really cared about him the most. Let's be real. So, again, that's how I feel about it. I had to let y'all know these are facts. It's not hard to find. This has been a state audit. You can look up all the information there. Okay, I'm not just speaking off the top of my head. The MCEC sent out multiple $1 million checks to fund this volleyball stadium, and it wasn't supposed to be used to do that. Bottom line, you got people in that state making $7.25 an hour. Get the fuck out of here. 19% of the people are living in poverty. They needed that, not his daughter, to pursue volleyball. You want to know who else was involved? Ted DiBiase. Yeah, you know him. $1 Million Man. $1 Million bullshit. That's what I'm saying. That's all it comes down to. And I'm interested to know, once they get people like McGrew, who was the accountant for all this, I'm interested to see what other things Nancy New has to say when she's finally under the scope of an investigation. Because all hell about to break loose in reality. We about to know some really other deep shit. But this is what goes on in America. While y'all sitting there pointing fingers at liberals, pointing fingers at the, Republicans, this is honestly what's been happening. Embezzlement. On all fronts. And like I mentioned, I don't play the red games, blue games, because guess what? They use these same welfare funds to fund a Democratic, candidate from the same state as well in Mississippi. So it's bullshit. Both parties have been involved in this nonsense. Maybe it's just the history of this state. And like I said, this is all real. This has not been made up. This is coming straight from the state audit report. They failed to meet legal requirements to spend public money and not have the adequate safeguards to prevent fraud. They did not fire all legal requirements for ensuring beneficiaries of large programs, including TAF, were actually eligible for the programs. You want to know what they mean by that is? I'll tell you why. During this whole process where they were getting money to put off to Brett Favre's bullshit passion project, they were only admitting 1% of state residents who were actually in dire need. They were only admitting 1% of them into the welfare program. So where else would the millions? Okay. Where else would the millions of dollars go? Oh, to Brett Favre's pocket, to Nancy New's pocket, to fund a new stadium that didn't nobody really need, at least fund it in that way. Again, you want to see a precedence being set? Look at what Deion Sanders did at Jackson State. He siphoned his own income to help out the football program. That's how you do it the right way. Period. And as long as I know that example is out there, F Brett Favre. I don't care what happens. He has what's coming to him. And he should be in jail just like the rest of these folks. And this is not just, and mind you, this is not just going on since Brett Favre, he needed this stadium for his daughter or all that. No, they've been defrauding. The state has been defrauding their welfare program for many years now. I think it's been since 2003 to 2010, only 50% of applicants had been denied, were being accepted up to that point anyways. And it was skyrocketed to 89% in 2011. So again, that has been a process that's been going on for a while now. And Brett Favre is on the cover right now. That's the cover boy now because of what the main story is right now. But again, like I mentioned, this goes back even further than that. even further corruption. And it don't matter what state you living in. It don't matter red or blue. I keep trying to tell you, let it go. But anyways, if you like what you saw today, please be sure to like and subscribe. I got some more content coming your way, including on the podcast, Never Out of Bounds, the same name as well. Please be sure to follow me on Instagram. I'll leave the link available for you guys. And if anybody hasn't told you yet, I love you. Peace out, one love, and I'll holla at you later. And do your best to take care of yourself and your own community, because obviously it looks like the government is not looking to help in a real way, meaningful way. And it looks like the celebrities you see are being used as pawns. And, if they can't be used as a scapegoat, they'll just continue to use them as some sort of low-level pawn. And, they'll let us fall for it. Just calling it how it is. All right, y'all. I'll holla at you later.